Collins Cobras. This is Mrs. Hernandez from LC62, and I'll be hosting your video today for reviewing two-step equations. You should have a copy of this notes page that we're going to start by folding in half. And on this side, we're going to write our title, Two-Step Equations Review. The inside we're going to fill out together, and then the back we're going to leave blank so that you can tape it or glue it into your math notebook. So we know that we want to isolate the variable using inverse operations or opposite operations. So the opposite of the opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is, of course, addition. The opposite of multiplication is division. And the opposite of division is multiplication. So if you are solving a two-step equation that has multiplication, we're going to follow these steps. We want to start by getting the variable and coefficient alone by adding or subtracting the constant from both sides of the equation. So our first step is to get rid of the constant that's next to the variable and coefficient. And then our second step is to divide both sides by the coefficient. Okay, so looking at this example, 4x minus 7 equals 25. I can tell this is a multiplication equation because I have 4x, which means 4 times x. But my first job is to get rid of the constant term. The inverse of subtracting 7 would be adding 7. So then negative 7 and positive 7 is another way to look at that. They would zero each other out, and that leaves us with 4x on this side of the equation. Since we added 7 on the left side of the equation, we need to make the same change over here to keep the equation balanced. So we're going to add 7 on this side as well. So the equation becomes 4x equals 32. Our next step is to divide both sides by the coefficient. So we're going to divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and we write 1x as just x. Now to keep the equation balanced, we're also going to divide by 4 on the right side of the equation, and we get a solution of x equals 8. In our next example, which is also multiplication because we have a coefficient right in front of a variable, we're going to start by getting rid of this constant term right here using the inverse of adding 1, which is subtracting 1. 1 minus 1 is 0, so those cancel out, and that leaves us with negative 8y on this side of our equation. Since we subtracted 1 from this side of our equation, we need to make the same change over here. So we're left with negative 8y equals 56. And then our next job is to divide both sides of the equation by the coefficient. So I'm going to divide by negative 8. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1. And we write 1y as just y. Since I divided by negative 8 on this side, I need to make the same change over here. And I need to remember my integer rules. When I'm dividing and the signs are different, the quotient will be negative. So we're going to get negative 7. So our solution is y equals -7. When we are solving two-step equations with division, we have the same first step. We want to add or subtract the constant from both sides to isolate the variable and coefficient. And then the second step is going to be to multiply both sides by whatever number is the denominator. So our first example here says m divided by 2 minus 9 equals 1. Here is our constant term that we want to get rid of first. The inverse of subtracting 9 would be adding 9, or we could look at it as -9 and +9 cancel each other out. And that leaves us with m divided by 2 on this side of our equation. To keep the equation balanced, since we added 9 to this side of the equation, we'll do the same thing over here. So it's going to become m divided by 2 equals 10. Our next step is to multiply both sides by the denominator, since the inverse of dividing by 2 would be multiplying by 2. These can cross cancel and become 1, and we write 1m as just m. Since we multiplied by 2 on this side of the equation, we need to make the same change over here. So we get a solution of m equals 20. And then for our last example, we have p divided by -7 plus 8 equals 10. We want to start by getting rid of that constant term that's next to the variable, so we are going to do the inverse of adding 8, which is subtracting 8. 8 minus 8 is 0, so that cancels out and leaves us with p divided by 7 on the left side of the equation. Since we subtracted 8 on the left side of the equation, we need to come over here and make the same change and subtract 8. So it becomes p divided by -7 equals 2. And then our next step is to multiply both sides by the number in the denominator, which is -7. -7 divided by -7 can cross cancel and become 1, and we write 1p as just p. And then since we divided by -7 over here, we want to come to the other side and make the same change. And when we multiply together two numbers that have different signs, the answer will be negative. So our solution is p equals -14. Don't forget to do the practice activity after this video, and have a great day.